Guys, FanDuel is a proud sponsor of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. March Madness is here. You got the men's and the women's Final Four this weekend, and you have a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when their first $5 bet wins. That is $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories. You can even pick who's going to cut down the nets. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. 20 days to the NFL draft, and I was thinking the other day, there are certain players from certain schools at certain positions that seem to pan out very well. We'll run through a couple of these real quick, but LSU, as of late, has been wide receiver U. They have an incredible track record of turning college kids into elite NFL wide receivers. You have Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., and that's just the last couple of years.
Is it because they went to LSU?
Maybe. Maybe not. Ohio State, similar track record at the same position. Recent Ohio State grads in the NFL, Marvin Harrison Jr., Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Those are different levels.
I'm just mentioning that certain schools have a very good track record.
But you got to level this stuff.
There are levels.
Terry McLaurin is in there.
Ohio State is not
There's
LSU.
More than four on all these.
But Ohio State very much has a reputation of sending
No, I'm saying, but like those guys aren't as good as the LSU list.
Fair. Georgia defensive lineman of late. Smith. Georgia has produced some elite defensive line prospects. Nolan Smith, Trayvon Walker, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, just to name a few. And then also Penn State. Some names that aren't as big and not in the same category. You're right, Bo, there are levels to this, but some Penn State edge rushers of late all have been top first or second round picks. Micah Parsons, Owe, Chop Robinson, Gross Matos. This year could be Abdul Carter next in line with that. So I just wanted to ask you guys, and G, I'll start with you.
Like Iowa or Wisconsin offensive linemen, no?
There's tight ends from Iowa. I could have made 50 graphics. But G, when it comes down to looking at prospects, and we'll use Abdul Carter for the sake of this discussion, but it is not just Abdul Carter. You can pick and choose any of these guys. Knowing the track record Penn State has at putting pass rushers into the NFL, or Jalen Walker out of Georgia, or Markel Williams if you want to use those two. Knowing that school's history and recent history of producing talent at that position that's translated to the NFL, does that make you feel a little better, maybe a little more safer if you were to take a guy knowing he's from a certain school, or is that just simply trying to put the pieces of a puzzle together that the puzzle doesn't even exist?
Yeah, that's a little more of a, I guess, a narrative. If it make you feel better, like, if you're going to draft a receiver and he come from Ohio State or he come from LSU, you can talk yourself into a lot of stuff. You be like, man, listen, man, we got one of those dudes, all they do is produce. But then you realize that when you get them, they're not coming with Jamar Chase and Jefferson. Like you got another guy from LSU that wasn't Jamar Chase or Jefferson. So it's like, it gives you an opportunity to get a look. And it does give you some lights and shines a spotlight on who you are, because, if you get guys like, Olave and Garrett Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr., all those guys, there's a tendency that top receivers want to go to that school. So therefore you will go to that school and we'll be talking about those receivers. But it all boils down to, when they get you in camp, what you doing? Because you can't carry that with you. That clout ends when you get drafted. At every level, you got to reprove yourself. So you could be a great player, a stud player, and then you got to go to rookie camp and you're gonna see what you're gonna do, and you got to reprove everything that you talked about and being about. So to me, yes, it helps you get a look, but no, I'm not gonna just put my flag in the ground and say that guy's gonna be good because he went to a school. That it just don't work that way.
Jason,
I think that there is. It's a second level of confirmation, I guess, if that's what you're looking for. Certainly the numbers have to be there in your 40 time, in your production on the field, in your film. Like, all that has to matter first. But I think there's a correlation, and first of all, the way these guys are coached, obviously, and who they are seeking, the type of player that they're seeking. They're only taking certain guys at Georgia to play on the offensive or defensive line. SEC in general, you're looking for a specific type of dude. Right. LSU receivers are the same way. Ohio State receivers are the same way. There is a long history. If you want to play receiver in the NFL, a really good way to get there is to go to Ohio State. A better way is to go to LSU. Yeah. Don't disagree with that. Alabama's another one. But a lot of players go from Ohio State to the NFL. And if you're an NFL team and you like what you see on tape and you like what you see on 40 time, if you have two dudes next to each other, okay, and they're very similar, you take the name off the back of the shirt. One of them played receiver at Kentucky and one of them played receiver at Ohio State. Which one are you going to take?
Yeah.
You're going to take Ohio State.
That Kentucky dude
which
better
could
be
screw you, though.
He better be a monster. The Kentucky guy has to overperform.
Well,
and kill
but
it
that's what
before
I'm saying.
I get what you're saying. I still think, to me, it's all about the individual player. I think what you said is once a school develops this reputation, then good players are more likely to go there. I don't know that those guys are good players because they went to Ohio State or LSU. I don't buy that. I think they're good players because they're good players. They just happen to go to Ohio State and LSU, and they're both good schools. If you look at LSU, those guys didn't have the same head coach, all those LSU guys, right? Because Jefferson and Chase were coached by, what's his name?
Ed Ogeron.
Yeah, and Neighbors and Thomas weren't.
When you develop a tradition,
Yeah.
Ohio State in the 90s, Terry Glenn, Joey Galloway, that, and now you look at the guys today, they weren't coached by the same people, but the tradition was there. The pipeline was there. When you're picking a college, I want to play in the NFL. If I go to Ohio State, I can get to the NFL because that's what Terry Glenn did, and that's what Joey Galloway. That doesn't mean Chad Cascio, the walk-on from Ohio State, ever made it to the NFL. Obviously, you have to have the talent and the numbers.
Walk-on names.
It just fell in my head because I covered them. I think Dustin might have played with them.
Yeah.
But and not every receiver. I mean, Brian Rubisky. Brian Rubisky didn't work. He went to Ohio State.
Yeah.
Didn't work out here. So not every single one is going to translate. But when you're an NFL team and you're looking for a receiver, you're going to pay extra attention to LSU and Ohio State.
Right.
You are.
I get what you're saying, but to me, that's more because the best players went there. Not because the school necessarily made them the best player.
Why did the best players go there? Because of the reputation that's been developed there over time.
Yeah. And I do think there's this thing that said if you play in the secondary for Nick Saban, they know coverage. They run one of the most sophisticated schemes in the back end with match coverage. And they'll match coverage you in cover 3, cover 4. He's a stickler on where you're supposed to be, your landmarks. And he's gonna get it, right? He understands it. But even when you say playing for a guy like Saban, he had guys that go to the league that were busts. Milner bust. You guys drafted. I think you
Jed
had
Wills.
Drake Kirkpatrick. I thought he was about to be that dude, and it just didn't.
No.
It didn't really work out. So it has to be both. Here's the thing too. You do know that they'll have a certain skill set. Like if you play for LSU or Ohio State, they don't do slow receivers, bro.
Yeah.
They don't do. You know what they're gonna get.
Right.
I'll be curious to see how the collective changes this, and how the new money coming in. I mean, Ohio State's going to be able to outbid, you would think, whoever they want. But can another school emerge, whether it's a Kentucky or Cincinnati or whatever? Who is this school that's going to get this big fund and start chasing players that could never get these guys before?
Right.
Texas Tech just got $1 gajillion from this new booster.
That's crazy.
And he said, spend it on football. He's like, I want a winning football team. And they have now ramped up, I forget, it's called the Reckham Fund or whatever they call it out in Lubbock. They're going to start.
Sure, they'll be 9-3 and lose
they're going to start buying a lot of
slapdick
guys.
bowl, and they'll be all right.
If you're Jeremiah Smith, listen, I think didn't Georgia offer him $6 million or something stupid? If you're Jeremiah Smith, you're like, okay, I won a national championship when I was a freshman. Mm-hmm. If I come back and they throw me the ball every play, I can win the Heisman. And I still got to go back for another year.
Yeah.
At that point, why are you staying? I would have been like, listen, I'm going to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
I put it out there. I won $15 million.
He might. You never know.
By the way, speaking of NIL, a lot of people, not me, but a lot of people have complained about NIL when it comes to, or the transfer portal, when it comes to college football. Dustin and I were actually talking yesterday, and I think the NIL and the portal have college basketball on the upswing because guys are more likely to stay in college longer, and so more players now.
They're going to transfer 12 times.
What's that?
That's right. They're just going to transfer.
But who cares? I don't care.
Like,
I'm not saying I'm just saying you're not going to have like.
If your team's not good, you can get good in a hurry in basketball.
Yeah.
In football, you need to get a lot of players to get good. In basketball, if your team's willing to spend, you get 2-3 players, you can go from being nothing to a championship contender. And like I said, we've had the problem in recent years of college basketball is that all the good players leave after 1 year. Well, now that's not going to happen as much. Like the guys who would be drafted late first round or second round, they're going to be less likely to come out because they're getting NIL money.
That is true. Real quick, because I want to put a bow on this topic so we can get to our last one. Yeah. Chris Henry Jr., the son of former NFL receiver Chris Henry, he's an Ohio State commit, a 5-star kid.
Yeah.
Recently, as in like 2 days ago, shut down his recruitment. He was supposed to take a couple of official visits. Said, nope, I'm locked into Ohio State.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to be developed by the Ohio State coaching staff because of their rich history of putting dudes in the NFL.
Well,
so,
to be fair, that's what he said. We don't know that that's the reason.
I mean,
I'm sure money played a part, but that's a
Yes.
real thing.
Yeah.
Go back before collective money and all that. Guys pick schools based on
because-
what's going to get me to the NFL.
Because listen, a lot of people, coaches coach things differently. Like, just put it in perspective, people don't know this. Like, as a defensive end, like, there's things that certain schools will let you do that other schools won't let you do. Like, if you're a defensive end and you're like a pass rusher, they'll tell you, hey, man, no spin moves. Hey, man, you got 2 moves. On second down, you're not just running upfield. Like, you're going to play this run block.
Right.
And certain teams in certain places where, they have a certain style of play, say, for instance, Penn State, those guys, why you think they got wear number 11 and run upfield? Same way playmakers at wearing number 7 for LSU in the back end. The same way Caleb Downs gets to do whatever he wants back there. It's if you wear number 2 at Ohio State, you're a monster, you're good, and they let you do what you want, and it works out for you. You get drafted. So some schools really spot shadow you, and they're like, you're gonna get the rock. Yeah.
I mean, let's face it though. With Ohio State, yes, the wide receivers stand out. But any player from Ohio State is going to get a boost for being from Ohio State.
Not the quarterbacks.
You're
Except
right.
for quarterbacks, yes.
That is right.
Except quarterbacks,
It is
that's
an
correct.
uphill battle for their
was
quarterback.
absolutely a stigma for a long time.
Well, but it was fair.
Absolutely,
Until
it's
Stroud,
fair.
it was fair.
But it goes both ways. We're talking about, do NFL teams prefer receivers from LSU? I guarantee you there's NFL dudes who looked at Ohio State quarterbacks and go, I don't know, man. They haven't had one convert in 40 years or whatever it is.
And they'll put a USC quarterback up here in a heartbeat. If you're Minimowski for USC, they'd be like,
is that gone though now? I feel like the last few weren't any good.
well, listen, Jaxson Dart went to USC.
Oh, okay. That's true.
One of the knocks on Mahomes was where he went to school. That's why they didn't take him seriously.
So it'd be unfair to say, G, and we'll just yes or no question real quick, we'll move on. It'd be unfair to be like, Abdul Carter's a lock to be a star because he went to Penn State, right?
Of course.
We could throw that out the window.
Courtney Brown.
Yeah. Courtney,
It's not a lot.
I mean, LeVar Arrington, he had a couple years, but, Chop Robinson came out a couple years ago.
Who was that other Penn State guy who was moved up the boards because of his workout was amazing?
Oway?
Ziggy Ansah.
No, well, yes, but there was another guy
didn't go to
before
Penn
that.
State,
He went to BYU.
Okay, sorry.
I can't. Oh, no.
They got one every year, bro. They keep one. They keep a rush in, but all I see is they keep losing to Ohio State.
That's true.